Hi there, my name is Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel. How you doing? Okay, calm down. All right, so let's see what the date today is. The year's flying by. It is Wednesday, July the 20th, 2022. About 10 months ago, I went live to talk about a new product from JBL, the PRX One, and some other products from them as well. And a lot has happened and changed since then. I know a lot of people out there have got this product or used this product. So today we're going to do a kind of catch-up live stream with Brandon from JBL. Please put any questions or comments you have in the chat, but please put a Q before you type your question, because I'm going to filter by the letter Q and so I can get through the chat easier, okay? So without further ado, let's invite Brandon here. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
Good afternoon for you. It's good morning for me. I actually brought my Aaron Short special.
Well, hang on. That's not an Aaron Short mug. An Aaron Short mug is the sound hole sniffer. Okay, so as you saw their features on the main screen. If you want to support the channel, we've got to get the sound hole sniffer mug. So next time I see you here, I want to see that sound hole sniffer mug, Brandon, not that one.
Okay. All right. I'll work on that. I still owe you a JBL shirt, so maybe we can work in some sort of exchange.
Oh, we have JBL shirt as well. It'll be awesome. Can you see? Can you? I was going to play spot the PRX One. It's kind of coming out the back of my head, unfortunately, but that's all right.
I certainly can see. I was going to bring both of mine in back here because I think it looks better than that blank wall that I've got behind me. But I also have a toddler who woke up bright and early this morning. So sometimes the best laid plans of mice and men, right?
That's fine. What you do have there is a big fan. Okay. No more jokes, I promise. All right, now before we get started with this Q&A, because I know there'll be people here who want to ask questions, there's actually a Facebook group. I'll give them a shout out as well. Oh, Justin, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. There is a Facebook group for these products too, and Brandon actually goes there and answers questions as well as he's been answering questions in my videos as well. So this has been great, but it's obviously great to have you live here. But before we get started, can you just tell any viewers that are not used to these products what they are briefly, and then tell us what's happened the last kind of 10 months since you launched them?
So I'm being told I have echo. It's not echo. I think it's just the reverb of my room. Aaron, maybe if I don't have echo, let's see if we can turn that off. I don't have any echo on my end. I'm pretty sure it's just the nice thick reverb of the empty office room I'm in. So to talk about kind of what we've done over the last 2 years or so, we've really taken a stab at refreshing the entire JBL portable PA portfolio, and part of that included refreshing our column speakers, which is like the PRX One and the EON One Mk, but also refreshing some of our full range or point and shoot boxes like EON 700. So the beauty of all this, all the work was done at the same time. So we were able to really design everything cohesive, right? So it all gets along. So really over the last 2.5, 3 years, that's been my focus, is getting all of this work done. All this work done was done simultaneously. And sorry, I also have a toddler who's pounding at the door, hanging out with his dad. So if you guys hear any of that in the background, I apologize. But I'm almost positive, guys. If you can't hear me, I'm sorry. The echo is more than likely due to my room. It's a very empty room. Aaron, you got something going on there?
I know exactly what it is. It's because how bad is it, people? Because I updated the firmware on my Rodecaster Pro 2 yesterday, and it's done something. It's like added some kind of, like, I can see your audio is going through my main audio, where it usually just comes through. I got it. I think I've got to change my audio to stereo. Hang on 1 second.
All right. I'll wait before I continue.
Yeah, let me just try something. Hang on. 1, 2. Okay, talk now.
Hey! Is that any better?
No, it's still going in. It says, okay. I really need to fix this.
They said it's getting worse, Aaron. So maybe turn the knob the other way.
You see, that fixed it, but I muted you. I literally muted that channel of the audio coming back through again. So I need to try to mute it here.
We'll get it dialed in.
USB. I don't want the USB to come back through the stereo output, which is 1. Try talking now.
Hey.
I think that's it. Talk again.
Hey, did that fix it?
Oh,
Any comments?
thank you. It fixed it, right? Yeah.
Not seeing anything in the chat, so I think that we're probably good. We're probably good.
Brad said my audio is not set. So first of all, let's just clarify this. Sorry for this delay. But for regular viewers, my mic is different because they're doing construction next door. So I had to switch to this mic. So it's not going to sound the same on my end. And that was a lesson there. Let's put this into the video. Even Brandon's firmware, never update firmware on a product before you do a big event. And I actually thought that last night as I updated my Rodecaster. I was like, I really shouldn't do it having a big live stream tomorrow. And yet,
I could have got on a little earlier, and maybe we could have got somebody a sneak peek and just checked it. But hey, it seems we're all fixed.
I need to chill out. I got a bit stressed there, so I'm going to put you on. Let us know start again. What happened the last 10 months?
Sure. So over the last 10 months, obviously we've released PRX One, we've released Eon One Mk, and we released the Eon 700 full range speakers, and all of those get along in the app. So the reverb is most definitely the room I'm in. So if you guys are still hearing reverb, it is because I'm in an empty room. Sorry about that. That's the best I can do. But besides, back to the main point here, over the last 10 months, we've released, a whole slew of products that all get along in this one app. It's it's been a big undertaking, and now we're able to kind of take a step back from integrating hardware and begin to focus on the actual app itself, the polish and really fine tuning the user experience and things like that. So, over the last 10 months, the big goal has been integrating hardware. We launched PRX One in August. We launched Eon One Mk in October, and Eon 700 in November. And all those projects, all that work was done simultaneously. So as you can imagine, when you're running 4 projects like that in conjunction with the JBL Pro Connect app, it all blends together a bit, and really you got to focus in many different ways. But now I don't have that. I can get more laser focused on just the app experience and start to dial that in. So really happy to have this chat with you, Aaron, and be able to bump stuff off of you. Obviously, I've chatted with you throughout this whole process to make sure that I'm not building things in a silo, but also being able to talk to people, like all the folks on the Facebook group and all the folks here in YouTube land and all that good stuff, because it allows me to really hone in on how to make a better product and a better experience. Yeah,
that's awesome. I see a lot of companies doing that now. A lot of companies are. I mean, the product I just mentioned, they launched a product very actively asking for feedback and pushing firmware regularly. And I think that is the new way now. Of course, it mustn't take so much of your time that you can't do your job as well, right? Because you need to balance.
Yeah, and it does take time, and sometimes I have more time than other times, and so I can answer somebody's question in real time. And sometimes, it may take me a week to get to it, just depending on what's going on in front of us. And of course, work's not all, all of my life. I do also have a personal life that I like to attend to, just like we all do. And I have a toddler that, loves to play with his dad. So, you got to kind of balance your time across that whole spectrum there. But yeah, it's been fun being involved and in the weeds. I love talking about gear and talking to people about gear. That's, in my opinion, the most fun part of the job. It's way better than Excel spreadsheets and paperwork,
So let's get this on the way. If you've got a question or a comment, please put it in the chat with the queue so we can address it. And while you're doing that, let me just start with my experience this weekend, because I like to tie my gear reviews and things to actual real use, So when I first got this, the reason I made the initial launch video is I'd used it, and I was plugging, as I still do, my TC voice effects pedal straight into it. I wasn't using the mixer much. And my plan was then to make some videos about the app and how you can use it. But the app had a few kind of, mostly visual glitches, but I didn't want to put them on the video. So I've been waiting for the app to be as stable as it is today. And that's why we're doing this video as well, because the app is in a really good place now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the app, but I just want to give a couple of real world scenarios. So last year, I used the PRX One at a large outside area at a country club. And I did run it at basically flat out. This was a huge area. but it did the job. It did the gig. Everyone could hear it right at the back, all around, and behind as well. That was really cool. So this year, I know this is a year later, but country club gigs tend to be in the summer outside. So this few weeks ago, I took a single speaker on a pole, which is what I used to use and what I've always recommended people use. And that speaker really struggled at this event. And this event was even bigger this time with more people. And I noticed that was actually clipping, maxing out, even though it's a 2,000 watt speaker. And a lady wanted to sing Shallow with me. And there's not an extra input for the mic, so I had to unplug the cable for her to sing, and we couldn't sing together. So I thought that would have been a better job for the PRX One, because I'd have had the extra channels, I'd have had better spread through the area. And then the weekend just gone, I used PRX One, and there was a tennis match on, and it was really weird because they asked me to turn it down, and I already thought it wasn't very loud. So I turned it down, and I thought they're not going to hear anything. But it was absolutely fine. And then once the match ended, I turned it up a little bit where I found it quite loud. And at the end, I asked people around, like, how was the volume? And they said it's fine. Obviously, it's hard to gauge ourselves sometimes what the volume's like as a performer. That's why I like sometimes to loop something and walk around the venue or use a wireless system if I can do that, if I have the ability to do that. But both those situations, I just thought that product worked great in those environments. So I'd like to see in the chat if there's any owners, how you're using it, any success stories you've had, as well as questions about the features or improvements that could be made. That'd be really cool. So
I've seen a lot on the outdoor usage. You know, one of our product application guys, he's a regular gigging musician and uses it outside on restaurants and things like that all the time. And you know, I did the bulk of my testing with PRX One in particular was done in my backyard. So, you know, this was in the throes of COVID when we weren't allowed to go into offices and things like that. So the bulk of my testing on PRX One was done in my backyard. So that's kind of how I made sure to validate that it would work in open air scenarios. Open air scenarios are generally so much easier to predict and manage than room scenarios, because you don't actually have to counteract what your room is doing to your sound, like adding unnecessary reverb or anything like that. But you know, it's a staple part of the test process for me. I have to experience what it does outside, because I know that these are products that are going to be used outside.
I just think it's a great application. The reason I still use the small speakers for some gigs is literally travel, right? So I take the I always say this, but I want to put my use case out there. When I take the subway, I can't take a PRX One with me, obviously, right? Obviously. So I either take the compact if I know I need battery power or it's a very smaller event. And then if it's like a big rowdy pub, I still take like a 2,000 watt PA speaker. I still have to. I can manage that on the train, but it's starting to bug me a little bit, I have to admit. But whenever I have the car, I take like the PRX One, and I just think, again, it's nice to have those inputs, even though sometimes I don't use them. Sometimes I plug a pedal, which takes my guitar and mic straight into it. And then at least I know I've got the others if I need them. That is a nice thing to have, because like
I'm a big fan of better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Of course. If someone wants to sing with you, and it's just great just to throw a wireless plug into that and give them a handheld mic, and they can go off and sing. It can make it can make or break a gig sometimes, those kind of things. So
Very true.
I'm just going through the chat now. Okay, we have a couple of questions. I need more questions, people. So please post them there while we're answering these ones. So the first cue comes from Mark Eastman. How you doing, Mark? Good to see you. He says, any plans to make the controls, especially volumes, more linear? It seems like there is nothing until about 75%, then a steep slope.
That's a good question. So some of the planned updates that we have to the control aspect is right now the volume is more of a non-linear, collinear curve. So it goes up fast and then slowly ramps up, because obviously the range below, you know, minus 35 dB, there's not much there for you. So what we have talked about doing is removing some of those steps, those low register steps, to add a little bit more fidelity through the usable range. You know, think like negative 10 dB to plus 24 dB, and add some more fidelity in that range. Some other things that we want to do is, and these are firmware updates that we've got in process, just haven't been able to validate fully yet, but things like improving the knob rotation. You know, from my perspective, if I'm deep in a menu, like the pass-through menu, for example, and I need to turn my my high pass or my low pass up or down, it takes a lot of turns to kind of get after that. And so we want to really improve the knob rotation so it functions more when you're really spinning fast. It spins fast, things like that. These are all things that you when you're in a test environment, they seem to work okay, right? And then you put it in the hands of a bunch of people, and people are like, this sucks. So that's part of why you do this, right? You have the digital firmware, the digital package, so that we can update firmware and keep it relevant when you guys are like, I hate how this operates. But there certainly is in the queue some UI UX opportunities to improve knob rotation, to make things. I don't think you want, personally, a linear volume experience. Otherwise, it would take you a long time to get out of those low registers. But I think what we do want, and this is probably rings true across all of the knob rotation, is a little more fidelity in the ranges in which we're going to dominantly use it, right? And that's something that we're absolutely working on.
What I've noticed the other day actually is that when you turn the knob on the unit, which I like to do sometimes, because with the app, sometimes I'm worried that I'll kind of like get distracted and swipe up and it will feedback or something. So sometimes I go for a small adjustment, I go to the unit and just turn that dial. But it goes up in increments of 2, right? It doesn't go up 1. You can't do 1 dB.
In certain areas it goes up 2. So we'd like to kind of make that 1. One of the drawbacks of a digital system, just speaking candidly, is that unlike an analog system, you don't have unlimited rotational steps, right? You have fixed detents of, maybe it's 64 steps. So we've got to just kind of figure out how to best align those 64 steps. And then if we wanted to add another 24 steps, well, that takes memory resources that we need to make sure we have available. So really the key isn't, I don't want to give you guys 1 dB increments from negative 100 to plus 56. That's way more than anybody wants. But if we could give you more fidelity in those ranges that you're going to use them, then it's going to be more impactful, I think. So.
Okay, awesome. In fact, I'm going to bring the app up on the screen because I've got that ability to do that. And then I'm just going to show like the things that I like that were just changed on here. Yeah, so obviously now when you grab a slider, it's much easier to move it. Sometimes before it wouldn't actually move well. And then, I think these things are important. I have this up on the mic stand when I'm singing and have the guitar around my neck. So sometimes, like, let's say that channel is up here and I think, it's not quite loud enough. And I want to go on there and hold down and turn it up. You see, I did it. But sometimes I just fear, like, if my hand's a bit sweaty or something with an app, that I might accidentally do this.
Yeah, so something that we've got planned that'll come around early next year is full fader screen access. So basically, if you would tap like channel 1, it will open channel 1 into a full screen mode where you have a full fader that will give you a little bit more dynamic range when editing that. That's something that's in the queue. The good thing is once we get all of our firmware work dialed in, which we're about done on, we can just update and rev the app to our heart's content because it doesn't have any firmware implication. So, once we get that done, which should be by the end of this year, all the firmware should be 100% dialed out. Then we can start to really improve some of these fun things that we've got planned for the app. We spec all of this on day 1 of deciding what we want for the app. And then as you begin to go through the process, you're like, well, we've got to get A, B, and C has to get done, but we got to push D and E downstream. We've got an in-app tutorial mode that we've created that we haven't been able to push live. Yeah. So cool. There's just a lot of stuff that we've spec'd out and created that we haven't been able to validate and push live because, you only have so many resources, and JBL is a larger product, and you may have seen that we've, in the past, we've also been releasing some tour grade stuff that operates with brand new software platform, and that software platform takes resources from my software platforms. So you only have so many resources, no matter how big of a company you are, yes, JBL and Harman is a large company, but that doesn't mean that you have an unlimited cache of resources.
No, look, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying it'd be cool if you could like type the value in. But what I actually do normally is just for people watching, I normally swipe left and then bring it up. I actually find that works for me quite well as well. So anyway, that's all fine. And then I just want to show the EQ quickly because again, this was more of a visual thing. But before, when we went to the EQ here and we would turn it up and swipe through, I found that it would actually it would be very it would be very jumpy. Yeah. So
and then there's some other things that people don't know. Like I don't know if you knew this, Aaron, but if you like double tap mid or double tap 3 right now while you're adjusting it, the 3 number, double tap the 3 number.
Oh, it resets it.
Yeah, it resets it to 0. So there's stuff in there too that like little Scooby Snack features that haven't fully been elaborated on. Once my video comes out here in the next 10 days or so, there will be some other stuff. But the EQ certainly functions much better.
Just one thing I found while we're talking about this, if you go below 100, then you get that behavior we had before.
Yep, that's a known bug. That's already in process, so it'll be fixed on the next.
But this is great. Look, we can now sweep through, and there's no like weird. It's nice. So it's a very small thing, but again, making videos and stuff, I just wanted to have that smoothness there. So that's really cool. All right, let's go to the next question because they're coming in hot now.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah, I'll bring that back up if we need to show something, Brandon.
Wonderful.
Okay. So the next question in the line was from Bill, and Bill says, any planned firmware or app updates for the Compact? We always get this question every single time. Any updates for the Compact? Because everyone loves the Compact coming. Yeah,
this is one of the questions that I get the most. So we're in the process of doing some requalification stuff on the Compact. There's some components that go end of life in this whole component supply chain shuffle that we have to requalify for the Compact. But I'm happy to report that the firmware work on and integration into the app has all been spec'd. It's all been paid for. Now it just the work needs to get done. So my realistic expectation is that around November, we'll be able to push out a firmware update that will address some operation system bugs. So bugs that have cropped up over the process of manufacturers introducing new operating systems to your devices. So there's been bugs that have kind of cropped up that you can only be prepared for when they release those operating systems that we're going to address. We're going to address the pass-through and add functionality to the pass-through to match the PRX and the EON One Mk, so you can actually use a proper subwoofer with it using crossover and all that good stuff. We're going to expand the effects controls. So if you've got a PRX One or an EON One Mk right now, and you use the reverb, the chorus, or the delay, you'll notice that there's considerably more parameters for you to edit versus the Eon One Compact. So we're going to do that. And then, of course, the full integration into the JBL Pro Connect app. So those are all planned activities. As I said, the hard part, we've paid for them. So now we just need to actually have the resources to get the work done. And that's looking like it'll get done hopefully around November. If not, January is the drop dead deadline that we're going to have that done by.
Okay. That'll be awesome when you have one app for your Compact and your PRX One. That'll be really nice thing to have. All right, Justin Hayes. How you doing, Justin? Thanks for joining us. Says the ducking feature on the PRX One, is this only available on channel 7? I would like to run my DJ controller via XLR and be able to make announcements using the ducking.
So yeah, the ducking feature does only adjust or duck the whatever's plugged into channel 7 or running on channel 7. So it's not just Bluetooth, it will duck your aux as well. But yeah, the ducking is designed to only function on that channel. As a workaround, trying to think about how I would do that, I'd have to probably think on that for a minute. I have a DJ controller at work that I can plug in and try to finagle how I would do that, but off the top of my head, I don't have a firm answer for how I would accomplish what you're trying to accomplish just yet. But to answer your question, yes, it is only available on channel 7 or channel 5 or your Bluetooth channel if you're on EON 700.
Right. So the ducking is for when you're playing music from your phone or the line in from a phone. It's not for like while the guitar's playing on channel 1. It's for that line in kind of sound.
Yeah, and if that means that, hey, let's so we've just that just means that we've got a fixed trigger, right? So if that means that, or a fixed side chain, it's just a side chain. Ducking is just a side chain compressor, right? So if we want to be able to say, hey, this channel functions as the trigger or as the duct channel instead of this channel, then maybe we can add that functionality in. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard of a architecture change, but something I got to investigate.
Yeah. I just want to quickly show that. I mean, some people might be watching that are interested in the product or not used to the product. And so I'm going to show that on the screen quickly just so we can see it on there. There we go. So if you go to channel 7, remember channel 7, some people will get confused with this. Channel 7 is your phone audio going in that you play on your brakes, okay? So when you tap the 3 dots there, it says duck. So that's the ducking feature. So as you talk and the music's playing, the music will drop down. In fact, my interface for this stream has it too. As I'm talking, the volume of the music automatically drops down so you can hear the person talking more clearly. But as you look on channel 5, obviously you do that. There's no duck there. So the ducking is on channel 7, and channel 7 is for your like interval music, if you like. In my case, anyway.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and then it'll duck either your Bluetooth audio or your auxiliary audio. So if you're running an auxiliary into there, it'll duck that as well.
Awesome. Now, a question about the EON 700s, which I haven't used these yet. Taylor says, are there plans to update the EQ for the EON 700s? I have the 710 and 718, and the EQ in the app is kind of frustrating to use. I would love it if they were more like a EQ8 from Ableton, turn the bands on and off.
Okay, I kind of understand this. So Aaron, just for context, the EQ on the 710 and the 718, it only has output EQ. It doesn't have the individual channel EQs like PRX One or EON One Mk does. But the output EQ functions exactly the same as the other two speakers. So, if there's fixes there that people would like to see, make some recommendations and let me know exactly what you would like to see. If you just want an EQ band on and off, that's a pretty easy addition to the code base. So it's not that hard long term to get done. The problem is that I've got this whole roadmap spec'd out into April of next year. So it's like, when do I try to squeeze this one in? That would be the key. But from my perspective, if you're wanting more out of your EQ bands, there's things that I want to do before I would add like on-off bands. I want to give you guys like a 9 or a 10 key command when you tap the EQ that'll give you the ability to give more defined measurements. So if you wanted a negative, if you want to reduce your bass by 2.6 dB, right now that's a little tough to get, but it'd be a lot easier if you could just double tap the number and then add where you would like your resolution to be. So I think things like that are maybe going to be more important than on-off bands. But certainly, if there's any other recommendations about how you feel we could make the output EQ easier to use, I'm all ears.
All right, thank you. Next one is from Gary. Yeah, don't forget to put a Q. If it's a question you want us to put on the screen and discuss, or a comment, put the Q there, because I'm filtering comments. Otherwise, I have to keep scrolling around all the time. So Gary says, how you doing, Gary? How big are the teams handling these performer-focused products? Any hints of upcoming products in the works? Ooh, hint, looking for an updated Eon One Compact. Well, aren't we all, Gary? The Eon One Compact 2. Is that going to happen anytime soon, Brandon?
So realistically, I built the Compact to have about a 5 to 6 year life cycle. So we released that product in 2019. I got a 5 to 6 year life cycle. I'll tell you when I'm going to start planning a new one in. But beyond that, if you want to know how big the teams are, the Harman is a huge company, huge. My specific team is me and another guy on the portable PA side. And then really when it comes down to like how big is my test and validation team, it's about 12 people. My development team's about 5 people. My engineering team is about 25 people. And then there's other associated functions like product or project management and sourcing and all of that aren't direct functions of my specific team, but still work with everything. So is it a large team? Yes. But also remember that I'm not the only person that leverages these team members. There are, we have a tour sound division. We have an installed audio division, and there's many divisions within JBL and Harman that share the same team members. So I don't always have full access to them, so that kind of can give you, some context. And I promise you guys, if I could get everything done overnight, I would. Aaron, you've dealt with me enough to know how I kind of operate and want things done. It's just a matter of, dealing with the resource limitation. As most of you guys work now, and that I don't think anybody working for a company or anything is running full teams right now. It's just a weird influx time frame of how things are operating. So, you kind of got to go with the flow in that regard.
Well, some products right now are completely out of stock. I mean, like Fractal haven't been selling they haven't been selling the products at all. Some products, as everyone in the chat probably knows who shops on Sweetwater, like I do, so much stuff is always sold out on back order. You have to put an order in and kind of wait 6 months to receive it. I think your stuff is pretty well in stock right now, right? So you're doing good on that.
Yeah, most of it is. I think right now PRX One might be limited stock. I know we're running off one Eon 700 speaker about every 90 seconds in Tijuana. So, that's a lot. That's a lot of them a day if you're running off one every 90 seconds. And so we're doing our best to keep everything in stock, and the reality is right now, everybody's dealing with stock outs and price increases. And what I've learned, just to give you some inside context, is that a lot of these products, almost everything in the industry, will use shared componentry. So like the capacitors, the resistors, the believe it or not, the chip that I use to control the application is the same chip that a company like Samsung will use to control their refrigerators. So, it's like, and then when you're in a situation where you're trying to battle for a Bluetooth chip with Sony, who puts the same Bluetooth chip in their controllers, their video game controllers, that's a hard company to fight against. And so, Sony has the ability to overbuy or overpay for components to put them into their stuff, and then just take that margin loss on the chin, right? And so a lot of other companies, especially the smaller companies, don't have that ability, and it makes it a little bit of a tougher challenge. And that's why part of why prices are going up. There's even down to the capacitor level. I'm paying 10 times what I would pay 3 years ago for a capacitor. When you're talking a product like PRX One that has something like 87 capacitors in it, and you're paying 10 times that, it adds up real quick.
I have a good question, because every week there's something like Martin just went up in price, Mesa Amps just went up a lot in price. Have you had a price increase since launch, and are you going to have one in the near future? It's a good question.
We did have to push a price increase out on all the speakers, probably about right about the 1st of June. So the EON One Mark II, we had to push it up about $50, and almost the bulk of that is battery. There's lithium shortages right now because we couldn't get people out to the lithium mines to mine lithium, so now we can't build batteries. And every battery that you ever are going to use is going to have some degree of lithium in it. So it's a very tough, challenging place to be right now. And for us, we have never wanted to raise prices for the sake of just trying to claw back money, but in some situations you're selling products that you can't even pay the bill on. So it's tough. Yeah. Just from a manufacturing standpoint, I can't, I know it's frustrating and tough on all of you. I know that, but it's incredibly challenging at this end. So like when I built, for example, the EON One Mark II, when I spec'd it, I thought I could sell that product for $9.99. And then as you begin to build it and you start to spec in features and you start to say, well, if I don't put in this feature, then I'm not going to be able to make it happen. The product jumps up in price, and it's a very hard moving target to hit. So,
I get that, and you're obviously working towards making it a certain price because that's the price it will sell units for, and you've got to sell units, right? I totally get it. And I just want to say to people in the chat as well, some personal experience. Like obviously I have this YouTube channel. I love gear. I love talking about gear. I'm obsessed with gear and all the new stuff that comes out. But I remember speaking to Brandon like last year and just saying, well, this is amazing. Like, you've done a great job. I remember our first conversation when you told me, I was like, this sounds amazing, incredible. And then at the end of that, I said, how about if you added this, and this? And then I soon realized that he would tell me like, well, we've used all this, we've done all this cool stuff you just mentioned is using the DSP. Like we can't do more than that without raising the price to thousands more. And I just think it's a good thing to bear in mind as well. I mean, that's not saying we shouldn't be asking for more features and improvements and things, but sometimes it's easy as a musician. Let's just say for myself, it's very easy to say, oh, it'd be even better if it could load like impulse responses and had built-in guitar modeling. But I think I realized I learned a lesson that you've also got to put on the other hat and think, well, to do that, they've got to use a more powerful processor, and therefore the price has to go up. And then is that even feasible as a product? So I just think it's good to keep that in mind when we're asking for new features. Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say to touch on that is it's not all doom and gloom from a new feature perspective, right? 5-6 years ago, the thought of having feedback suppression included in a speaker was unrealistic. 10 years ago, having Bluetooth audio in a speaker was unrealistic. So as technology improves, we can push a lot of these updates into the newer products. But really, in order to reset the ceiling, I think you have to lift the floor. And I think that we've kind of done that on all of these products. I'd venture to say that there's never going to be another product that the move to one app is going to fall short. It's going to snowball because nobody wants to maintain multiple apps. Including these effects and things like that. It's one of those things that once you do it, people don't, you don't put that cat back in the bag. Once the cat's out of the bag, the cat's out of the bag. And 20, 30 years ago, you look at what powered speakers were. They're big, bulky, heavy, because it was the combination of the power amp into the passive speaker, and we hadn't figured out how to make all that stuff light now. Now you can get a powered speaker that weighs 17 pounds. It's technology rapidly increases, and the thing that I will say is, like, if you're happy with the direction that we've gone thus far, the goal is only to improve from here.
But I get that. Remember, I said at the start of the stream, I said for some gigs I still have to use a powered speaker, or you're frozen. I'll see if you come back. If not, I'll have to kick you and have to rejoin. At the start of the stream, I said about having a powered speaker for certain gigs. That's where something like an Eon One Compact 2, or as I just called it, an Eon One Compact Pro would come in for me. So I wouldn't mind seeing a product like that that's the compact, but a bit more money, but with a few more dBs and a few more features. For me, for what I do in the scene, in the city, that would be ideal for me. Right, I think he's frozen, so I'm going to kick him out, and then he can come back in again. Let me bring up next question. By the way, I'll take this opportunity to say, if you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell. I'd appreciate it. I'll have more content on this the JBL speakers coming up soon. Here he is. There we go. No problem.
All right. So, sorry, I have internet spikes that come through here.
No, it's fine. If that happens, I just kick you and just rejoin. Yeah. Did you hear what I was saying just then, or did you lose me?
I heard everything. I could hear everything.
Okay.
I was just frozen.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I'd love to see something like that. But again, that's the selfish me saying that's the exact product for my needs, and that has to be for everybody's needs, not just mine as well. That's the other thing. You've got to make products that will sell to lots of people. Let's keep going.
The one thing that I do try to do, if it takes any solace for you, is that I try to design products that don't have one single use case. I try to make it so that the products are versatile and you can use them in multiple fashions.
Right.
I am a musician, so I know your guys' world. I've done some DJing and live events. My primary background is recording and live sound, obviously, but yes, I work for JBL and I'm a product developer and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I'm one of you. I am a musician who loves gear, and that's really what you want, I think.
But I know what happens. I buy something new, like this Rodecaster Pro 2. I buy something new. It says it does everything, and you're so impressed with all the features, and then there's one thing that it doesn't do that in my workflow. And I could say that's a complete deal breaker, or I could just try to overlook it. So that's a natural thing when you get new gear, I think. Let's keep going.
I think that there's never going to be anything in any product anywhere ever that does 100% of everything, right? And I know that was kind of like
possible.
meandering.
Not possible.
Yeah, it's meandering waffle, but even if you're buying a house or picking dinner, you're never going to find something that has everything. It's just not. That's not life. So, my goal is if I can make 80% of the people happy, then I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, I'm just giving the gear fans experience, Thank you, Mike and Marie Acoustics. I appreciate it. Let's keep going because we're going to try to finish around 1, and I'll make sure we get all the questions answered. So Faith Production says, don't know if we've already discussed this, but will it be possible to connect 2 PRX Ones together and run them in stereo? I get this question on my channel all the time, and maybe be able to use all of the inputs.
So, no, unfortunately. The short answer is no. We tested PRX One connecting it with like Bluetooth stereo, right? And when we would stream, the total harmonic distortion was prohibitive. Your PRX One's very loud speakers, so whenever you're splitting a Bluetooth signal like that, it's going to add noise to the signal. As you turn up and try to get ample volume, that noise was very apparent in the loud system. So I made the executive decision to kill that feature very early in the development process. As for the 7x2 inputs, realistically, when I'm talking to people, I tell them that Did I freeze again? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Realistically, when I'm doing development, I tell anybody that if I'm paying $1 for a feature, you as an end user are paying anywhere from $7 to $10 for that feature. So the ability to chain mixers using an Ethernet port or something like that, which is really the right way you would have to do it. You'd have to do it over Ethernet or Cat5 wirelessly, or Bluetooth is.
I'm going to kick you again. No problem. The joys of live streaming, eh? Yeah, that would be very cool to have all of those inputs available at once. But I mean, it's already got a lot of inputs on there already. I mean, you can get quite a large band playing through that, and then you can get another one and just slave out to the other one. I mean, if you could connect the 2 mixes together, you'd have 14 channels. I mean, I guess that would be awesome. But I mean, that would be like for a wedding band or something, right? To have that many channels available. So when he comes back, I'm going to ask him the way to do it. I presume it's to get a mixer and then just line out of the mixer and use a huge mixer to do that job. But yeah, I use like 1 to 2 channels for a solo gig, maybe 3 if there's a guest speaker, and I could use like, I guess a 3-piece band would be ideal. But yeah, 14 channels seems like a lot. Here he comes. All right, he's back. Quickly, give us the answer before you freeze again.
Yeah. Anyway, if I'm paying $20 for something, which is about $25 is about what a Dante port or an Ethernet port with the necessary componentry would cost. That's going to cost about $150 for you as an end user. Is that worth it to you? Ask yourself that question.
I think there are bands that would love that feature, as I was just saying when you were gone, but there's also solo acts and duos that I think this appeals to, maybe, or DJs and solo acts. I don't think they need that many inputs. I think a wedding band or a 4 or 5-piece band wants that many inputs. At that point, you want to get a separate mixer, right, and use these just as speakers at that point.
And my audience, my user base is not just musicians. It's about 40% musicians and about 40% DJs, and the other 20 is about random other folks who are doing other things. So,
like,
while you musicians may want that feature, I also got to think about the other 40% or 60% of folks who don't want to pay $150 for that feature. I've got DJs who don't even want to pay for the DSP. They just want the speaker. So, it's a tough push and pull.
Right. I get it. Be nice to have, but it's, next one. Yeah, this is really cool. They added this to some of the guitar processors, and I find this really useful myself. Mike and Marie, welcome to the channel. They say, are there any plans to add some kind of metering in the app?
So Bluetooth is a very poor metering solution. That's the reality of it. But what we can do is certainly add clip indicators and things like that. But also the long and short is that the LEDs on the actual hardware are designed to offer you some degree of metering, to at least let you know when you might be in the wrong. And I'm still working on dialing those in so that they're perfect. I know that a lot of people have reported that they may be able to get clipping easily. Right now, my recommendation is if you don't hear it clipping, it's not clipping. So until I get the time to work specifically on all the LED function, which should be here in the next 3 to 4 months, but until I get time to work on that, that's the solution right now.
Okay, awesome. Justin Hayes says, On the EQ and channel mode, why is it not the same as EQ on speaker mode? Example, both has bass guitar, but DJ EQ is only on speaker EQ. Because that's the output. Right?
Yeah, that's a good question. We certainly could put DJ EQ on an individual input, but we do it on the output of the speaker instead. Usually, in my experience, DJs aren't using multiple inputs across the speaker. They might be using one, maybe two, if they plug in their DJ mixer and then a subsidiary microphone. And I can understand how that might be frustrating. So, I'll look at it. I'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So you assume the DJ is going to plug in and just apply the global EQ and not use the other channels, but maybe they are, right? Maybe they're putting the DJ sound into channel 1 and then channel 2 they want for a vocal mic and not apply the global sound. So that'd be a cool thing to have on there as well. Yeah, that's good. Absolutely. Good feedback. Pardon the pun. People are happy about the Compact getting the app updates. I know that's going to be huge. We must do a live stream when that releases, because that's going to be the biggest thing, I think, because there's so many Compact owners. That's going to be a big thing for them.
I think last I looked, we sold something like 65 or 70,000 of those things worldwide.
Wow. So. Will the old app still work, or will it no longer work? Will everyone be forced?
In the short term, but there's not going to be any work done on the app. So if there's any bugs on the Compact Connect app that you're not happy with, then those bugs are not going to get fixed. But in the long term, the goal is to discontinue that app and push everybody into the Pro Connect app, which I think is functioning much better than the Compact app now anyway. So
No, I agree. But obviously customers have to be made aware that it's a completely new app they're going to be moving over to. So we'll definitely do a stream at that time if we can. Okay. Dario, good to see you here. Can the PRX One handle a bass being plugged directly for small band settings? Or if the bass is plugged into a bass amp, will it handle the sound if I line out from the amp to the PRX One?
The answer is yes to either way. I am a bass player, so the bulk of my testing was done using a bass guitar. I'm not one of those bass players that's like a failed guitar player who picked up the bass because somebody needed to play bass in the band. I cannot play guitar. I'm not a guitar player. I am a bass player through and through. First instrument I picked up was a bass guitar. So to answer your question, yes, I did all my testing on bass guitar. If I were you and you wanted to use the bass plugged into an amp, the amp really just becomes a stage monitor at that point in time. But yeah, you certainly could run line out into the PRX One, and in my opinion, it'll definitely handle it.
Dave says, I use the Pro Connect app on an Android phone. On Android phones, there should always be a row of soft buttons, home, back, etc. visible, but the Connect Pro covers up that row.
Yeah, we've heard that feedback. It's on Android, you basically have one of two options: cover the buttons or don't cover the buttons. We chose to cover the buttons to give you a little bit more screen real estate. There is a disclaimer when you load up the Android app that says, hey, if you want to get out of the app, you got to swipe to get your buttons back. So it really just because, half of the people that I talk to are like, yeah, I love that it covers the buttons, and half the people that I talk to want the buttons back. So it's I would prefer to just be able to give you the experience, or I wish that was a setting within the Android operating system. Maybe it is. I'm not an Android user. So, if that was a setting in the Android that you could select that, then great. I'll work with the dev team because I've heard this both ways.
I have a question, and I think this might help some new users as well. So let me just bring this thing back on the screen again. And this is the app. So channel 1, okay, minus 100 dB. And like people said, sometimes it feels like it kind of kicks in up here. But what you got to remember is if it does kick in there and it's like room level, you've still got another 56 dB on top of that. That's a lot. So yeah, actually the thing about changing that is not a bad idea. But my question is this. On channel 1 at 56, I think people I don't know if people are aware of this sometimes. Channel 2, 56, channel 3, 56, channel 4, 56, channel 5, 36. That's worth bearing in mind if you plug a guitar into this, that channel 5 has 20 dB less gain, right? So why is that, Brandon? Can you tell us why?
So channels 1 through 4 actually have dedicated microphone preamps, right? Microphone, and the way that the preamps on this work, we've talked about this, is it's just continuous, right? As you begin to turn up and you engage whatever that gain level is, there's an op amp in the system that will fire on and give you the additional gain that you need. These are full bandwidth microphone preamps. So every every microphone preamp does some degree of coloration to your sound, right? And usually as you turn up or drive a microphone preamp, it likes to roll off your highs and your lows. And we've all heard that and experienced that. These are full bandwidth preamps. They don't roll off as you turn up. So, one area that we knew we had to fix based on our previous design, the Eon One Pro and the Eon One, is our gain staging, right? It's one of the biggest complaints about those previous products. So to fix that, we kind of killed a fly with a sledgehammer, and we put in mixing desk quality microphone preamps. Well, the reality is I can't afford 7 of them. I could only afford 4. So I gave you guys the 4, and the 5 and 6 are actually going to have digital gain added as opposed to analog preamp gain.
Okay. And just a thought though, like if you do play acoustic guitar and you feel like you haven't got enough level, would you agree it's good to plug that instrument into, say, channel 1 to give you the access to those additional dBs?
Yeah, if you're using 5 and 6 and you feel like you're not getting enough volume, I would try 1 through 4. And generally speaking, not all microphone preamps are made the same. Not all guitar preamps are made the same. Some guitar preamps need considerably less gain, or they run at line level. Some guitar preamps need a ton of gain. And so, it's really just a matter of plugging and playing and finding out what channel works the best for you. Generally speaking, if 5 and 6 isn't giving you enough and you feel like you need more, then use 1 through 4. Use one of the microphone channels. Yeah.
I just want to point that out in case some people are getting the unit and plugging straight into 5 and then thinking, oh, I'm almost at the top here, or on this guitar has like a low output preamp or something, then I would use that instrument on the other channels to access the additional decibels for sure.
So I'm sure you don't have anything plugged in, but I need you to turn those microphone preamps down. You're giving me anxiety that you're...
I know, nothing's plugged in and it's muted, you see. So,
Yep. Yeah. And you may or may not know this, everybody may or may not know this, but anywhere you see that speaker icon next to a fader, it'll mute that channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Now if I don't do this, I'm going to plug something in later. Well, mind you, the neighbor's doing construction, so what do I care, right?
That's why I had to have you turn it down, because I've made that mistake before, and it's never a fun one to make.
Yeah, no, I like I said in one of my other videos, if you're new here, check out my other videos I've done on this. The way I use it, and some people disagree with this and use it differently, but like the weekend, I put the master on maximum, and I plug up, because I use like a TC Helicon Play Acoustic, which just has mic level out. That's one problem with that pedal. So as I bring it up, there's nothing, and you know why? Because it's mic level. So the system needs to engage to mic level. So it engages around here and it's pretty quiet, but then you've still got all this to go, and that's really loud. That's another, like I said, 50 dB on top of the signals already coming through. So.
Yeah, and that's not fake dB. That's 56 hard dB of gain. That's a lot of gain.
Yeah. But that's how I run it. Okay, let's keep going because we're running out of time. And like if
I could probably spare an extra 15 minutes or so.
Okay, thank you. But I want to ask the viewers. A couple of people, I saw some comments where they said, "I missed the cue. Here's the cue. Can you please just do me a favor and retype the whole thing with the cue? Because I've got a separate list here of the cues on the screen, so I'm going to miss it if you don't." Okay, so please do that for me if your question is still relevant. That'd be awesome. Okay, so I'm going down to the next one. We love the granularity of the JBL products, but the Bose ones generally sound more pleasing to audiences out of the box. Does Brandon design products with close competition as reference?
Oh, of course. I'm probably, and nobody take this the wrong way, but I'm probably one of the only people available around that has actually heard all of these systems next to each other. The one thing that I will say is that how something sounds is incredibly subjective. And what you may like, I may not, and vice versa. So I, with the help of my very talented acoustic engineering team, tune all of these speakers. When I listen to them, I personally think they sound better than their competitor. But if you don't, well, I give you a ton of DSP to make the speaker sound better. So, the catch that I would say is that, if some of our competitors' speakers don't sound good or you don't like them, they don't give you as much DSP and you're kind of locked with whatever that sound is. With our speakers, I try to tune the speakers to be close to neutral, close to flat, so you don't have artifacts throughout, and gives you a lot of predictability on what the speaker is going to sound like in multiple scenarios. But I don't want to say, hey, this is how I think the speaker should sound, and you shouldn't be able to change that. So you have the ability to fully dial in a speaker to your needs from a DSP perspective and an audio perspective, and I think that's a tool that I would rather have than a canned sound that you're not able to change.
Yeah. There's always two sides, right? Like if your particular guitar works great with another product, then that's great, and use that. But I've found sometimes I've changed to another guitar, and that won't work with it. And then what am I going to do? Like I've actually abandoned products for that reason as well, because I'm completely stuck. Whereas with this app we have here, we could set up in a room, use a looper, go out into the front, and really dial in the sound that we really want. So it's a bit more work in that regards, but it makes it a lot more flexible. So I don't know.
You're never going to please everybody. I personally think all the speakers sound pretty good, but I'm the guy tuning them. So, if I wasn't proud of my work, then I would be probably in the wrong gig. If you guys don't like the sound, make some tuning changes. You have the ability, and then when you've done that and you say this is how I like it to sound, share it with your friends and show them, because everybody always wants to know, hey, what's the best preset or settings for this? And my answer to you is, I don't know. I don't know you. I've never spent any time with you. I don't know what your ears sound like or likes. I can't tell you what you're going to like for the sound of. The best way to find the sound you like is to do what I do and twist knobs, press buttons. Yeah.
And you have the ability to do that. I mean, I'm the same. We all want products that we just open up and just blow our minds out of the box. But the thing with sound gear, you've got to remember, is it all depends on the room you're in as well. And there's so many things that factor into that. It's not really possible to have a speaker that uses artificial intelligence to like read the room and figure out the reflections of the wall. Actually, some mixers do that now, don't they? But you know what I mean? Like,
now you said it's not possible to have a speaker that does that, and what I would like to say to you is it's not possible yet.
Oh, well, there you go. You heard it here first, people. And then we'll still have something to complain about.
Musicians, DJs, you guys will always find something. So
yeah. I'm just kidding, people. I'm talking about myself. Okay, I'm not going to dig at anyone. I completely get it. I'm exactly the same. And I had that the other day before my gig on Sunday. I sat in here and played through this thing at a low volume. And then when I went to the gig, of course, it sounded completely different because I'm outside and I'm standing in different spots. And also, when you turn up the volume on a speaker, of course, things change as well, don't they?
Oh, yeah. The more power you begin to send to a speaker, the different behavior that the speaker has, right?
Yep.
And so that's something that's known
differently. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. All right, another question. I was recently using the JBL One Compact for 6 hours straight. The battery ran out and I plugged it in, but the woofer stopped working. Only the tweeter was working. Weird.
Yeah, this is one of those bugs that popped up with, over time for some weird reason. Just perform a factory reset and that should go away. When your battery, the Eon One Compact in particular does not like it when your battery fully dies. So my recommendation would be to try to not let your battery fully die. But if it does, just perform factory reset by holding phantom and ducking. All your LEDs will flash. After that, the speaker should work just fine. If for whatever reason it doesn't, just thumb screw off the battery, pull the battery out, wait 5 seconds, put the battery back in.
Follow-up question to the EQ. Does the speaker EQ override the channel EQ?
No, they're independent.
They're independent. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I haven't used the speaker EQ yet. I've just used the channel EQ.
Speaker EQ is great for dialing in the overall sound. I saw somebody ask about tuning your room. The important thing to note is that tuning your room involves acoustic solutions, right? You're not tuning your room. What you're actually doing in this situation is tuning your speaker to your room, because tuning a room is much different. But that's really what the output EQ is for, is the ability to tune your speaker to your situation.
To the actual room, yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so next one. Is it possible to run the PRX One with 2 EON 615s? The PRX would run as the center stage speaker, while the EON 615s would run as left and right, like satellite speakers, right?
Yeah, sure. It's possible. I'm trying to figure out how you would do this without a dedicated mixer, because obviously if you're going to want left and right, you got to kind of run it in that fashion. I also, and don't take this the wrong way, I also question why you might want to hook your setup in that fashion. Generally speaking, understanding your motivations is a key for me to be able to tell you the best way that I would do it. This isn't necessarily the application that I would probably use. I might use my PRX One in a center spot and then run my Eon 615s downwind so that I could get a better experience for people who might be farther away from my speaker. But again, is it possible? Yeah. Is it possible without a dedicated mixer? Not if you're wanting true left and right. You're going to have to run out of a mixer.
Do JBL sell a mixer that you'd recommend if you want to use this with a mixer, or two of these with a mixer?
JBL is not a mixer company, right? But Harman owns Soundcraft. Yeah. And Soundcraft is a mixer company. The product manager for Soundcraft is a key stakeholder on all of these products. He's helped me design these mixers. So I do all my testing with the Soundcraft UI24. If you're needing a mixer that's capable, I would certainly recommend that one. But again, part of the problem with the UI24 right now is that it's in a perpetual state of back order because of how incredibly popular it is. So, JBL doesn't make mixers, but Soundcraft does. I test all my stuff using Soundcraft mixers because they're readily available to me. That'd be my recommendation for the scenario that was just described.
Okay. Follow-up question. Dave says, when I swipe, I end up accidentally changing the volume.
Yeah, buddy, that's annoying, isn't it? Yeah, it's on the key. It's on the key to get fixed. I promise you on that one.
Good. On the JBL Compact, what's the ideal of limit before it clips?
The speaker will not. In theory, it won't clip until you get right up to the limiter wall. The clipping is ideally going to tell you when you're hitting the hard system limiter. But on EON Compact, I know that there's some wonkiness with the LED lights where it doesn't like to work properly. A lot of the clipping that I see in the field is due to people not properly gain staging. I would, in that situation, turn your main output fader up and then turn your channels down a little bit to get the best experience. Generally speaking, if I'm running like Bluetooth audio, I'll turn that up to 0 dB and then I'll turn my main output fader, to about -10 and adjust there as necessary.
And like you said, use your ears as well, right?
That's the most important thing I can ever stress to anybody. Yeah, always use your ears. If on any of these products you don't hear it clipping, it's not clipping. And I promise you, I have tried my hardest to destroy all of these products, and I haven't been successful.
Dave typed this again. Android soft buttons is when I swipe up, I get the bottom row, and it's a thing on the iPhone as well. But it's not just your app; it's everything because again, the way it's designed that you swipe up to go home. When you try to use whatever's at the bottom of the screen, in this case the master volume, sometimes it will actually swipe left to another app or something. But that's more like the iPhone's interface, and that happens on all apps.
Part of that problem that Dave is experiencing is working around iOS limitations, right?
Yeah.
And figuring out how to best do that. And it seems to me, in my experience, once you get something done right, it all changes. So, like you'll build around, we've got this nice home button, and then that goes away. And then you'll build around something, and then, Apple will say, hey, we've changed it. And we don't get any advance notice of that. We get the iOS system the same day that you guys do. So, sometimes you'll notice that whatever change they made there broke something, and you've got a mad scramble to fix it.
Well, you get like 4 months, don't you? When they announced the new one in June, and you have until September basically to
something like that. Yeah.
If you get a few months. I mostly use Bluetooth music streaming from my phone. What volume should I set on my phone?
Great question. I don't think a lot of people know this. Do not run your phone at max. If you're running your phone at max, it's literally sending out the highest possible signal that it could. So what I always do is I'll turn my phone all the way up to max, and then I'll pull it down one. So that's a great question. It's also important to note that you do have 3 stages of volume on Bluetooth audio for PRX One and EON One Mk. You have your phone, which is the first and most important one, and most of the time when people are like, I can't get sound, that's why. Then you have your channel, right, which is the individual knob. Make sure your channel LED is lit for channel 7. or 5 if you're on a Mark II, and then turn your main output up. So that's kind of the gain staging that I work in. Always work from the input to the output. I don't like to work from output to input, generally speaking. If I'm unless I'm working on multiple sources, then I'll turn my output up so I know where I'm at overall. But yeah, turn your phone up all the way and then pull it down one. That's the best.
That was my thing though. That was my thing. I'm used to starting with like setting the gain for either, I guess in this case, the phone, or for me it'd be the guitar, and then working up to the master. But that's why I do that thing where just to clarify for everyone watching, that's why I do that thing with the master. I don't normally do that, but I just find on my PRX One, I like doing that. Run the master, almost take the master out of the equation, right? Like a tube amp with no master, and just use the gain and just make sure you don't run it so high that it clips. But by the time I get that thing so high that it clips, it's just blasting. Like I said at the start of the show with that thing outside. Yes, I had both things at maximum, but it was blasting like 200 people at a large outside event. And, so I never actually run into a problem in the real world with that.
They can be quite powerful when ran full pin. Yes. I must say, I've certainly pissed off a few neighbors, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't. If I did it in here, it'd be the last thing that I ever did. That's for sure. But it was good because it didn't like the speaker, the small speaker I used on Sunday. It was actually limiting. It was actually shutting down completely. But that didn't happen with the PRX One. It didn't. The
PRX One won't shut down on you anyway.
It wasn't like compressing everything and trying to keep
the limiter on the PRX One is designed to actually just derate or turn down. If you're hitting it too hard, it'll force turn down on you instead of turning off. It won't shut off.
Okay. A couple people asked this question about the sub. Is it possible to change the level of the sub, or do you have to do it all through EQ?
It's all done through EQ. Again, we dial in the system to be a specific way, and I understand some people might want less bass. If you do, you have a fixed EQ. There's a shelf EQ on there. There's multiple ways to kind of lower your bass down. But yeah, there's no fixed subwoofer control, if you will.
So it all acts as one, basically.
And just to answer the question, why can't you change? That's a pretty big architecture change that involves a lot of work. So it's not that you can't. It's just that it's not a feature that I saw as impactful in the grand scheme of things. And from a DSP package perspective, that means that you need to now have active volume control on your system crossover, and that takes a little bit more work than it sounds like. It sounds like, well, just put a fader on the sub. It's not that easy.
Right. One thing I want to throw in here, because I think it's really important to a customer, when you buy this, you get a really nice bag for the columns you see behind me. The actual bass unit, you can buy the roller bag, as we said before, from the website. But I was in the group the other day talking about this because I want to get a cover for mine, and a few people mentioned places you can now get covers from. So I have actually ordered one, and if it's decent, perhaps I'll make a video about it, because I think it's an important accessory to have to protect the bass unit. So I just got like a slip-on one. It's about $90 that just goes over the top. It would be great if you did offer like the same material that you give with the pole bag as an additional accessory to slip over the top, Brandon. Is there any plans to do that?
Well, part of the process of increasing prices means that you now have a little bit more cash to play with, right? And so one of the things that we are going to do on future runs of PRX One, and if any of you have PRX One, I'm really sorry, but we will be including a woofer cover with the product out of the factory. So that's probably not something that's going to be you're going to see for at least another 6 months, and I'm sorry. I can't retroactively go back and give you guys all covers. I'm sorry.
Well, but the price has gone up since then as well, right? For some people.
Yeah, I think the price went up $100, and with that $100 in the project, I built a bag in. We've ran it and cut it onto the production line. So new production will have that woofer cover, but I can't retroactively go back and give it to everybody.
I get that, but will you offer that as a purchase to customers?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be just a standard slip cover with no clips or any of that stuff. That's a different team. They are working on that. I don't know when that's going to be out. I can certainly follow up, but the plan is to add just a standard slip cover, so the product can stay nice and clean when it's in a resting state.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I always think that. And I think a lot of users have made their own solutions. And like I said, there are solutions on the market. I found one from, is it Tukey? Tukey Covers?
Yeah, I think Tukey Covers is actually a local spot for you. They're based in New York, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
They're third party that they do covers for like all of our stuff. There's a few companies out there that will do the third party covers. I don't have any experience with any of the third-party covers, so I can't really comment on their quality or anything like that, but there are a few companies out there. Tukey Covers is one that I've heard of. There's some other ones.
I use these studio slips, and you can do things like get double padding and zippers and leather on the bottom. This is for my guitar amp, so I wanted something really nice, but the PRX One version of this was around like, at the end of the day, it was like 180 or something. I didn't want to spend quite that much, so that's why I went with Tukey on this one. And that's about $90. So I'll let you guys know, and who's watching, like if I like it, if it's good. I mean, there's covers and covers, right? There's some slip covers that are like a millimeter thin, and you really. If you're throwing this in the car, you want something that will actually pad it and really protect it when you slide it along the car. So.
I have certainly seen slip covers that were made of newspaper.
Yeah. So it adds perceived value, but there's actually no value at all because you're not going to use it because it doesn't do anything. So
exactly.
I get that. Someone said, I just joined. Do they cover connecting the two together? Yeah. So again, you can slave one off the other one, but you can't do a separate mix out of one. Oh, Mike said, I got a Gator cover for my Mark II, $60. Really?
There was one question that I saw that I thought was good, and somebody asked if the Eon One how the Eon One Mark II cover rollerboard works. It's important to remember that the Eon One Mark II, unlike the PRX One, packs all up into one little package. Or you can put the array and the spacers into the back and lock them in. So they all would just go right onto the rollerboard. In my garage right now, mine is on my rollerboard, all covered up. So that's how that would work.
And the website for the official cases is JBL Bags.
Yep, JBLbags.com. Yeah, those are all built by Gator. We subcontract with Gator to build all of our bags. Gator has a very, very good relationship with Sweetwater. As a point of note, they have a little bit of a warehouse that's right within driving distance of the Sweetwater, the facility there in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they'll actually just drive van loads back and forth when people order them. So Sweetwater generally is going to be one of the best ways to get your hands on some of the authorized stuff in a fast fashion. So that's definitely one of my recommendations. But yeah, these are all subcontracted through Gator. Gator does a great job on them, I think. And they've been making bags and stuff for us for a little bit.
The thing about this one is I thought, $200, and I don't need the other bag because it comes with it. And I'm sure everyone's been saying this too, right? It's not just me. And then the actual cover has the roller as well. Although I got to say, when I played on Sunday, it was a long walk down to the area, and it wasn't fun carrying down there. So maybe the roller thing isn't a bad idea, actually, depending on where you're playing and what your needs are. But yeah,
I don't like carrying anything, so I prefer rollerboards or casters or.
Yeah, no one does. So, a port or Bluetooth for larger LCD screen Mark II?
So there's no port, and this might sound a little sarcastic, but if you want to use Bluetooth for a larger screen, the application is alive and well and works just fine.
Is the iPad app in line right now with the iPhone app? I think I read something once about the other day about the iPad app is not quite where the phone app is. Am I wrong?
No, we split the work back when we were trying to get all the slider work done. But now the most recent version of the application got the app dialed in for both phone and tablet. So you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Well, can you tell us anything like the near future? I mean, first of all, thanks for your time today, and it's been great. And I am just personally relieved. It's not a huge thing. It's not like I've had this product lying around that I couldn't use because it was not working because of firmware. But for me, I just like having things look just so and be sleek, and especially in the heat of the moment on a gig, right? If I'm using the thing. So this update, the app now is in a really good place for me. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes in the future. But is there anything in the very near future that we can expect to see or look for?
I can't talk too much about it because I'm bound to the secrecy, right? But I think our next iteration of the app will come out right about September, and that'll be to support some hardware. So.
Okay. No, I really meant for PRX One users. Any like
for PRX One users, we're the main thing that we're trying to do over the next 3 months is some firmware work, right? We want to push out some firmware updates that'll fix any outstanding bugs that we have. In particular, we want to try to get all of our lights dialed in, things like that. So that's where the bulk of the work is going to be done on PRX One next is firmware validation. Same thing with Eon One Mark II and Eon 700. With the exception of Eon 700, we are going to be pushing out probably in the next 5 weeks a true wireless streaming feature to Eon 700. So you'll actually be able to stream Bluetooth wireless stereo to your Eon 700 series speakers.
And just so we all know, what is the latest firmware and app version as of today for people that are watching, if they want to check?
009 is the latest version of app software. So you're on 009 will be the latest version. There are multiple products with multiple firmware versions, so forgive me if I don't have them all right. But I think the most current version of the PRX One firmware is 5.1.0. Yeah. And I think the most current version of the Eon One Mark II firmware is 5.0.9.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. And to check that, just go to the app and check the firmware and make sure. It's
if your firmware's out of date, it'll tell you when you check it. So.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'm in a position now to make some videos on this. So let me know. I mean, like you said, there's so many ways of using this thing, and I'm not particularly a DJ. I'm not a bass player. So if you're watching and there's anything you think that you'd like covered that you would find interesting, do let me know in the comments below. And if I get like one subject that everyone wants me to talk about, I'll happily make a video on that. For sure. And let's just keep in touch, Brandon. And then next time we get another big update like this, let's just do another one of these to get more questions at the time. But especially when we get
maybe around September or so we can
especially when we get that compact one, we should have a party as well, because there's going to be a compact party for me.
There we go.
There's a lot of people.
All right, Aaron, I appreciate it, and thanks everybody for stopping by and sending us some questions.
Thank you. If you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell, and we'll see you next time. Take care and be well. Bye bye. See you, Brandon. Thank you.